Hello, I'm Emily Williams, the DNA candidate for the Marathon Constituency. The government's failure to adequately inform and warn residents in the Marathon constituency about the health hazards of the Rubis gas leak affecting the water supply was a betrayal of epic proportions. Adding insult to injury, though, were comments made by the area MP Jerome Fitzgerald, whose feeble attempts at justifying his actions in the wake of that discovery have only added salt to a still gaping wound. During a recent radio show appearance, Fitzgerald proudly declared that he had no regrets about how he handled the matter. This is a far different one from the tone he sung in the days immediately following media reports about the gas leak. At the time, Fitzgerald, when pressed by the media for answers about why he chose to remain silent, told reporters that he acted to save his job, explaining that had he spoken out, he would have lost his position in cabinet. How selfish. Now, months later, it seems that the good minister has completely absolved himself from any responsibility in the matter and says he feels no regret. He apparently has no regret about the fact that the damning Black and Beach report simply sat on the desk of the Attorney General for more than a year, while scores of Bahamian families in Marathon were torn apart by sickness and death. He had no regrets about essentially betraying the men and women who elected him to office simply to preserve his cushy political position. In another jurisdiction, Fitzgerald would have found himself stripped of both cabinet and parliamentary positions. He also would have potentially faced criminal charges for his negligence and dereliction of duties. Instead, under the lackluster leadership of Prime Minister Christie, he has been allowed to hold on to both of his posts even after publicly admitting his malfeasance. This past Friday, Fitzgerald squandered the opportunity to apologize and make amends for his actions. Instead, he used the opportunity to attempt to clear his name and further distance himself from the matter. Fitzgerald's inability to simply concede that both he and the government mishandled the Rubis leak is a slap in the face of those families who may have lost someone to an illness caused or exacerbated by contaminants in the area water supply. I think his words were cold, they were empty, and they were callous, showing little regard for those residents who continue to feel the sting of that betrayal. How shameful. It is clear that all members of the Christie cabinet, particularly MP Jerome Fitzgerald, must be reminded that their first obligation as public servants is to the public, and as the Member of Parliament for the area, the onus falls on him to protect and serve the interests of residents in his constituency. Anyone offering themselves for public office must realize that service to one's country must supersede one's personal comfort. Our political leaders must show courage and integrity. They must be willing to stand up for the people rather than work to preserve the status quo. And when necessary, they must be prepared to walk away from the political establishment when it no longer protects and serves the interests of the majority of Bahamians. Once again, this PLP has proven that it does not value the lives and contributions of hard-working everyday Bahamians. Instead, we continue to be used as political pawns, only worth protecting when it suits the political elite. I'm Emily Williams, the DNA candidate for the Marathon constituency.